Most people can. I want to welcome you to our St. Tammany Board of Adjustment meeting. And I also, before we get started, would like to thank Mr. Blosh for presiding over last month's meeting. A couple of little things that we tell people before we start. If the ruling that the BOA provides to you, if you are opposed to that, you have the right to go to the district court and appeal that decision. We have speaker cards ready if you are if you're here, in opposition to somebody or some case, you have the right to do the speaker card, and we will do that. With public speaking, we give 10 minutes to each side and 5 minutes for the rebuttal. And then the one thing that we would ask is that once you have finished your case, we would ask you to leave, only because, well, we only have 3 people here. A lot of times we have many, and they start conversing, and then that is not fair to the person that's trying to provide or present the case. So those are our little starting ground rules. And so I would like to go ahead and get an approval on the minutes. And let, first and foremost, let Ms. Helen call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas,
Here.
Mr. Daly, Mr. Blosh,
Here.
Mr. Glockner,
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mrs. Chairwoman, we have a quorum.
Do you want to tell them it has to be unanimous since there's only 4?
I would like to say that since we do have a quorum, and that's 4, it has to be a unanimous vote in order for it to pass. And I want you to consider that carefully, because you have the opportunity to postpone if you believe that this is not in your best interest. So I just wanted to let you know that if we vote and one person votes against your case, then it has not passed. It has failed. So I just wanted to let you know and be aware of that. Yes, sir.
Still not running.
Oh.
I think we are, but
We're checking to make sure that we're being recorded. I probably need to add lips here and make sure we look good. Thank you, Mr. Blosh. There we go. All righty. So now I will entertain approval of the June 4th minutes, or are there any corrections to those minutes? Ms. Lambert and I talked prior to, there were two adjustments to those minutes. The first part of the minutes state that I was vice chair and I started the meeting, and we know that I didn't do that from London. So we changed that, Mr. Blosh, and then there was a typo and we corrected that. So with that being said, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 4th meeting?
As amended.
As amended.
So moved. Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes. With that being said, we will move on to vote. And please vote with your little yay nay. I need to write that down.
motion carries. All in favor?
All right, motion carried. So we will move on to BOA case number 2024-3799. Ms. Lambert.
This case was in front of you. Is it on?
You want to use mine?
Do you have a control there?
I don't. Well, I don't know, maybe. I don't think so.
This case was in front of you last month where we received a request to reduce the side yard buffer from 50 feet to 20 feet. A revised plan has been submitted, and the request remains the same. However, it's only for 400 feet in the front of the property, as you can see on the attached drawing, which will leave the property is 176 feet wide and 1,275 foot deep. The required no-cut buffer is required on each side, which will result into a reduction of the width of the property to 76 feet. The requested reduction of the no-cut buffer to 20 feet on each side will allow for an increase in the buildable width to 136 feet and allow for the construction of a driveway and a single-family residence north of the Mary branch which bisects the property. If you notice on the attached document, you can see the branch that is crossing the property. So here, since the request has been amended, it demonstrates that the topography of the land is taken into consideration in regards of the placement of the proposed single-family residence and the barn, and also shows an effort to maintain more than half of the property as undeveloped land.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and address and any information you would like to provide to the board before we consider the case?
My name's Tiffany P. Cool. The address is hold on, I just bought it, so it's 87474, I think. I'll have to double check the address. And it's Vineyard Road in Folsom or Franklinton. They gave me two different addresses.
Okay.
So it's technically Folsom, but they put Franklinton on the
But
address.
it's a Franklinton address?
Yes, they said if you call 911, it's Folsom, but if you do utilities, it's Franklinton. I don't know. That's what they sent me on the paper when they said.
Frankelson. Got it. All right.
It's
well,
like a weird, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go
Right.
through Washington Parish to get to St. Tammany. It's all backwards.
All right. All right. Do you have anything further to add since the last meeting?
Well, I went and talked to Mitchell from the Land and Development Office, and he told me that it is very narrow. It is very hard to build on such a small spot. So he told me it was actually his idea to keep the front buffer the same, keep the buffers around the stream, and keep most of the buffer in the back. And then he said to just try to reduce the buffer in the front of the stream where I would build, because he said it would give me enough room to build my house, my barn with the driveway and everything that I need, and the rest of it I can just keep it pretty much the same. He said any underbrushing or anything would be fine, but no tree removal or anything like that.
All right.
And that was his suggestion. I agreed with him, and just I hope everything goes as planned.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that has a grievance with this or would like to oppose this in any way? All right, I'll open it up to the board for questions.
Madam Chair. Yeah, Ms. Pico, I'm trying to understand the drawing, because I did look at it, and I guess I was a little confused by it, somewhat. Now, you're asking for 400 feet from the beginning of the property, where it begins at the highway back, or I'm sorry, the road, Vineyard Road back?
No, they had the buffer in the front. I think there was 25 feet buffer or something in the front.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about on the sides as it comes back.
Oh.
I heard some mention of 400 feet.
Yeah.
I didn't do the exact math, but I think it was 50 on each side, so I was trying to get it down to 20 on each side.
Mr. Blosh?
Yeah.
So basically, she's requesting, or she will keep the 25-foot no-cut buffer. And I did an approximate measure when I went online here on the GeoPortal, and I measured if there's a 100-foot no-cut buffer north of the stream, and then the 25-foot no-cut buffer along Vineyard Road, then it's about 400 feet where she would like to request to keep 20-foot buffer on each side.
Whatever buffer I need from the stream is fine, but I just need enough, more, it's more the width I'm worried about more than the length.
Right, and so as I recall from your last time here, it was your house that you would like to construct, which you don't have plans for at this point.
No, I talked to some people, but I haven't actually got it drawn out or anything yet.
Okay. And as I think I recall telling you too, we kind of have a hard time doing this unless there's a really, really, pressing need to be able to do this. I'm not sure if I understand if that fits that or not. Maybe you can help me understand more about the barn situation or why the property is not being centered, where it has to be offset like this.
Because, well, I feel like right now I live in a shotgun house, and I feel like if I build a house and put a barn directly behind it, I feel like I'm still kind of shotgunning it. And I'm just trying to make it more of like my house right here, my barn kind of cat a corner off, like not next to it, but like kind of cat a corner behind it. But I didn't want it to do like house barn. Like I found that it looks funny, and it's just more
Right.
shotgun style, and I don't really like it.
Okay.
And I didn't have enough room for the horses or like the animals to run around or do anything. Like I need a little something.
Okay. And then also, what about your neighbors? Have you contacted anyone around you that owns property right next to you or?
I've
adjacent
talked to
you?
my neighbor, the Valley, that's their last name. Susan Valley I think that's her name. I've talked to her, and then the people next to me that they recently moved in.
Right.
So, I mean, they had no issues with it, but they both told me their suggestion was to build in front of the stream rather than behind it. Because one of my neighbors, he lives in the trailer behind the stream, and he had to build a bridge to get over the stream to get to his house, and he said he wouldn't recommend that. They both said that.
I understand that.
So that's why I chose the front of it.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. I appreciate you coming back with more information with us and everything, and looking at your compromise with the parish and everything, and trying to keep more of the nature scene around there. And I'm looking at comparables also, next door neighbors. It looks like, with the size with the width of those lots for any type of home that you're going to construct, you're going to need yard and everything else too. So I appreciate you coming back with this proposal, and I don't have any issue with this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, and one thing in the staff's information was that you will need to secure other approvals, if applicable, from the Corps of Engineers, Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, or any other federal, state, and local agency. And as you work, with your contractor and work with the staff, they will let you know what is needed if something else comes up.
Okay.
Okay. With that, do I have any motions?
Well, I have maybe
Oh,
just
I
one
have
more question. if
another
you don't-
question. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's
So
fine.
what would preclude you from, say, taking that front 25-foot buffer and maintaining the 50-foot until it got to the barn? Is that something you considered?
Wait, explain that one more time.
Starting at the beginning of Vintage Road, working back south on your property, on the west side, working back to the barn, maintaining the 50-foot no-cut buffer until you get to the barn, and then allowing for that barn to be placed inside that 50-foot buffer.
Is that because of the pole? You talking about where the pole is going all the way through, and then there's like the split between right next to that pond? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't think so, no. If you're looking on the west side,
Let me see. Look at my picture. I don't remember exactly.
starting from Vineyard Road on the west side,
Okay.
and I don't know exactly looking at this topo map, but if you continue from the Vineyard Road along on the west side right there to maintain that 50-foot no-cut buffer until you get to the barn,
Okay.
then we can allow for the 50-foot. What I'm suggesting is something that you might have considered or may not have considered. Up to the barn, maintaining that. And I think I need to preface this by saying that this has been extremely important to people who have bought out there in these different areas to maintain that. There have been a lot of people who, that's one of the reasons they bought, is because of that great, expanse between the properties.
Right.
And they don't even see each other. So,
Oh, I don't want to see them either.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I love my neighbors,
Right.
but I like to be.
so this board
In
is
my
charged
area.
with trying to preserve that the best we can, but
Right.
try to accommodate you as well. And so
Right.
that's why I'm offering another alternative look at this.
Will that
Is-
give my animals enough room to I don't really, it's not the trees I'm mainly worried about. I mean, I do need enough sunlight to be able to make the grass grow, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all mainly the underbrushing stuff that I'm worried about. is that gonna give me enough room for my animals
Well,
to like?
surely in
get
the back of
around
the
or-
property, there's plenty of room
Yeah,
for animals.
as long
And
as
I
I,
don't-
am I still allowed to underbrush? If I have a buffer, does that include underbrushing or is that only trees?
It's supposed to be a no cut.
No
is-
cut.
Yeah, nothing. It's
So not
supposed to be
even-
maintained, right.
Right, so that's not even like, what about sticker bushes and that kind of stuff? That's nothing.
Yeah.
Cause that's
No
gonna,
cut buffer
Yeah.
is no cut.
right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm
And
saying
so
with the
I'll just say that I'm
animals.
more inclined to maintain that 50-foot until you, and accommodate you when you get to the barn at that point in time to allow you to offset like that. I understand where your, where your desire is to have an offset instead of an alignment of the properties. I get that, and
Right.
it is narrow, so we're trying to
Mr.
take this
Blanche,
into
did
consideration.
you looked at this too?
I did.
What the-
Yeah, I was a little confused about it at first, but now I'm understanding it
Yeah, I
better.
get it too.
Which
'Cause-
one is your barn and which one is the house? The one on
The-
the east side?
What,
On the
do
west
you have
side?
a picture of, this is, so like this is what I have, well, I have another one, but I kind of drew it out, but like, this is the road right here. The house was gonna be on the far left side and
That's
the
what it
barn
is,
was
and the
gonna
barn
be
to the
cat a
right.
corner to the right because of, that's the highest point of the land. The land kind of goes downward and then it also kind of goes a little sideways. So I wanted to put the house on the highest point and then the barn kind of on the lower point in case there is like some flooding or
Sure.
anything like that happening.
So the house on the side where you have where there's the pond.
No, the barn would be by the pond, and then the house would be on the opposite side
Okay.
because of the highest. I don't know what y'all are looking. I don't know what piece of paper y'all are actually looking at.
Looking
I'm also aware that
This and
there's a
this.
power pole cuttage on that side of your property, right?
The one by the pond.
By the
yes.
pond, yeah. So that's an easement, so I mean, your property line would start from that power pole cutaway?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you had access to that easement. Some people have access to easements to encroach onto their property. I'm not
Right.
sure. You just
I
have
was-
to have them allowable access to
Right.
do their work.
Right. Exactly. They should have more than enough room because it's like a huge walkway all
Right.
down that.
Then I'm afraid if we require you to do that 50-foot, I mean, that 20-foot is another thing too, is if you go into the power line, then you may not have
Right.
any foliage between your property line and that power line and that pond. So I'm not sure exactly whether your property line, you might want to check into that too.
Well, I
to
just
see.
got a new survey ran
Did you?
the other day. So I just got a brand new one, so I don't know if that is any different, but the guys that I talked to about clearing the land, they said when they pulled up the old survey, it came up as not accurate, so he told me to get a new one.
You have it with you today?
Yes. Do you-
May we see
Yeah,
it? if you
could
want?
you just pass it to us?
Yeah, who do I pass it to?
Thank you. I would be afraid about the stream overflowing though, if we put it. Sort of something like that. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of trees, I just don't want, it's just this, like, all the
'cause now
extra
you're-
stuff, the sticker bushes, the weeds, it's like, I can't even walk through it, like, it's so cluttered. That's what my main concern is the animals being able to walk through
Okay,
and
so
like,
let me put this
I don't
in
want them getting
context
stuck
here,
out,
so-
you know?
Drive free, then we're talking about here. Mr. Blanche. Mm-hmm. This is the wetlands right?
So, yeah, again, my suggestion is to maintain that 50-foot no-cut buffer from the Vineyard Road to the point on the west side where the barn is going to be located. To accommodate that barn, and then from that point forward, moving back to the rear of the property, headed south all the way to the line, maintain the 50-foot again. Same thing with the house, up to the house, and then allowing for the property, the the 20-foot buffer, and then again, taking that back up. This is certainly very much in line with what we've allowed in the past for those 50-foot cut buffers.
Thank you.
And I think that's very accommodating considering that the variance doesn't way is not a hardship. We don't have plans at this point in time to see or anything like that. There's places that this house could be built. You don't have to build a barn. And so I think that if we were to adopt that, in my opinion, that would be a fair and equitable decision on this board's part.
Okay.
Do you have any questions before we propose a motion?
I guess not. I mean,
I'm not sure what you're, well, we'll talk about what
Yeah.
your motion is, but you have something else?
No, I'll just go ahead and make that motion. If you want me to repeat that, I can. Now, the only problem is I don't have we don't have a survey to know exactly where these structures are going to be located.
Right.
And that's going to be something that I would think we'd have to have, correct?
You can condition variance.
Okay. Okay. Okay, do we leave that to staff to work with them on that, or how do we?
Yeah, they can bring us back a revised, she's gonna have to submit a plot plan anyway, so she will have to show where the house is gonna sit, and then showing the 50-foot buffer where it's gonna interrupt for a portion where she can build her house.
Okay, and I'll just say that this, in my, Madam Chairman, my motion for case 3799 would be to allow for a 20-foot, 30-foot reduction in the side yard buffer where the barn would be located, as plotted when that's submitted and approved by staff, and along the east side up to and a point where the house begins, and then after the house is built, according to the plat, back down through the entirety of the property back to the southern portion of the property. Am I thorough enough in that?
Yes.
Okay.
that does include a driveway and all that, correct?
And that has not been discussed.
I mean, I have to get there somehow, but is that okay though?
The driveway is gonna cross the 25 foot,
Yeah.
and then it will have to stay 50 feet from each side.
Okay.
So the 50-foot buffer
Right.
would still have to be there, and then figure out with your contractor where the,
The driveway would be in the middle,
Driveway.
50 feet on each side, and then it would get to where, okay.
Okay, I think I'm good with that.
all right?
Bring that as a-
Well, let me be clear on what you're proposing. So you want to maintain the 50-foot on
West
the
side?
west side?
That's correct. Up and until the barn is constructed in terms of the plat that is going to be submitted.
And on the east
And
side,
then-
we retain the
and-
20-foot?
Well, no, on the west side to continue after the barn, continue that 50-foot down to the remaining southern portion of the property.
Okay, what about the east side?
Same scenario, up to
uh,
the house. And then as the house, the building area is completed, that 50-foot would be maintained all the way back to the southernmost part of the property.
Of course, we'll have to give more room, for her to be able to do construction, so it may
Correct.
be 100 feet that will be cleared to 25, the 20-foot.
Right, understand. Okay, yeah, and that's, like I said, we're trying to find a compromise here that works for everyone and still
Meets the-
maintain the standards
meets
of
what
the
we
state,
have to do.
parish wants, right? Mhm.
All right. I am not going to repeat that,
I got it.
but
Yeah.
does everybody understand the motion as presented by Mr. Blosh? Do I hear a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded to do what Mr. Blosh said to do. I don't have it written down, but as long as everyone understands what we're voting on.
Right.
All right, if you will please vote with your machine, I would appreciate it.
All right. Very nice.
All in favor, motion carries.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, and I know you'll be in touch with the staff.
Yeah, I wanted
There
to
will
ask,
be
when
more
I go
work.
to get the permit to do that, I have to submit the plan before the permit? Like, how, I go to the land and development
can-
office and I have to submit
You
it?
can go meet with Mitchell or myself, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, our next case for today is 2024-3850. And who is here to represent that? How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you, ma'am.
Would you please introduce yourself, state your, oh, you want to read that first? See, I just told me that they had, I did it wrong. Would you please be quiet while Helen?
That I can do,
reads
yes, ma'am.
the staff report.
The objective of the request, as shown on the attached survey, is to create a separate parcel of land for the existing commercial site development. The proposed creation of the two separate parcels prompts the need for the new lot to meet commercial landscaping requirements, including providing a 10-foot buffer along the new internal property lines and one Class A and one Class B trees every 10 feet. As per the attached site plan, the new proposed property line traverses an existing concrete parking lot for the development site. The creation of separate property results in self-imposed variance request. However, staff is not opposed to the requested variances, considering that providing the required buffers and trees would require a reconfiguration of the parking lot, impede traffic circulation, and require cross-access with the adjacent parking lot. The request is common throughout large-scale developments, and I also included a couple of examples where the board granted a similar variance at Highway 21 and River Chase commercial development, and also here across the street within the Highway 59 East Scoop Drive commercial development park.
All right, and my apologies to you because I should have said that your variance request is a waiver of the required 10-foot east and west side buffers, the rear internal buffers, and the required number of Class A and Class B trees along the newly created property lines between lots 165A21, 165A22. So would you please state your name, your address, and what you would like to say about this case?
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much. My name's Nick Gilliard, 785 North Causeway Boulevard, Mandeville 70448. Appreciate y'all's time today. This is a fairly simple request, so it's an existing development right there on Highway 21, Azalea Gardens. Effectively, all the front buildings and all the side buildings by the Fat Spoon are all retail and restaurants. So throughout the years, we have finally got that fully leased. And then in the rear section, the part that we're trying to separate, sit 3 existing shell buildings. So those shells were initially intended to be office space, but with COVID and kind of the death of the office space market in the real estate market, we held off because it wasn't viable. And unfortunately, that has continued to be true. So our plans now are to put something that differs a lot from the original intended use, but something that can really benefit the community. And also be viable for us to actually build out. That way we don't just have 3 big shell buildings sitting there unused and not doing anything for anybody. So with that said, it's a fairly simple request. We're just trying to parcel out those 3 buildings against everything else. And I think, as Ms. Helen put in the letter, it is a self-imposed variance. So all we're asking for is for it not to be treated like a brand new piece of property, treated like what it is. It's an existing piece of property. And to do what we're requesting a waiver for would actually cause more problems than good.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone that opposes this? All right, if not, I will open it up for board discussion and question. Mr. Blush?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, looking at this case and reading about it, it was very reminiscent of some of the other ones that Helen had cited. And I think that it also behooves us to, and rather than impeding traffic flow in that development, to allow for connectivity. I don't see an issue with this at all. That's the way it exists today. I don't think it's going to create any harm to grant any kind of waiver to subdivide for that. That's my own opinion of it.
All right. Are there any other comments? I think this is one that certainly we have voted on, similar request and approved. Is there any other?
Yes,
Okay.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
It's the same question I had before when we did this one. There's not going to be any kind of variance request or for the parking is my concern.
No,
No.
it meets all the parking requirements.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
All righty. All right. Sir, would you have any other comments?
I guess I'm a little gun shy from the last time we had 4 people up here, so am I allowed to ask, is there any reason y'all would vote no?
You are allowed to ask that.
Okay, because in that case, I would postpone it, but hopefully not.
Okay. So you want to take your chances?
Is there any reason y'all would vote no?
I think you have a pretty good chance here.
Okay, I
All
like
right.
that.
Do I have a motion? Okay, you motioned that the variance as requested is approved, correct? Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded to grant this variance request. Please vote.
All in favor, motion carries.
All
Now you
right.
may go celebrate, sir.
I'm going home.
Thank
Guys,
you.
thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gilliard. Appreciate you coming today. All right. And our last, but not least, our last case for today is 2024-3862. And the variance request is a variance to allow for a billboard off-premises sign to be located closer than 500 feet from a residential zoning district abutting the same highway to which the sign is oriented. Who is here to represent? Wait. I know who you are, but we need Ms. Helen to read
Yes, ma'am.
staff comments.
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of a billboard off-premise sign abutting a residential property zone A2 suburban district. As shown on the attached maps, the portion of the approximately 60-acre subject property directly abutting the site where the billboard is proposed to be located has been identified as freshwater emergent wetlands. Freshwater emergent wetlands are defined as transitional area between permanently wet and dry environments. A portion of the property is also encumbered by the gas utility right-of-way and Bayou Lacombe. The visual impact of the proposed billboard on the abutting residentially zoned parcel will be limited considering the development constraints. Moreover, it is more suitable for that portion of the 160-acre parcel to remain undeveloped and maintained as a conservation area. And also, I distributed to you larger copies of the wetlands determination or inventory that was provided to us, and also 2 letters of no objections that were submitted yesterday, and I also provided some copies for you. I'd emailed you a copy yesterday as well.
All right. Did everybody receive their copies of the letters? Okay. All right, sir, would you please state your name and address?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul Marone, P.O. Box 1810, Covington, Louisiana 70434. I represent I-12 LLC, which is the owner of the property and the entity requesting the variance today. Mr. Sieverding, the principal of that company, is here with me as well. As Ms. Lambert noted, the variance request is to be able to locate an off-site billboard within 500 feet of residentially zoned property. It has always been my appreciation that this provision in your ordinances is meant to protect potential houses that would be constructed and homeowners on that residentially zoned property from being too close in proximity to the billboard, which we understand and makes sense. We have a somewhat unique situation in this instance in that the affected areas, if you will, the adjacent properties are just not likely to ever have homes on them. And I would say in furtherance of that and echo kind of what Ms. Lambert said in some of her staff comments, but we have really 2 major factors, I think, which suggest that this property adjacent to our site is likely to remain green or buffer. One is that portion of this property is encumbered by Bayou Lacombe and its immediate adjacent areas, which is a scenic stream, which is protected not only at the parish level, but also at the state level. As you get outside of those riparian areas, then you get into what are these pre-emergent wetlands, which likewise, not that wetlands cannot be permitted, but wetlands that are adjacent to the scenic stream are even more likely to be preserved and to be maintained in their current condition and less likely to be developed as home sites. In addition, this area would also be subject to your retention and your no net fill criteria that the parish has. So further limitations on really being able to get into what amounts to a very sensitive area. So I would respectfully suggest in this instance that if the variance was granted, it would have no impact on potential future homeowners because they're just not likely to be potential homeowners within this buffer area. And I would say maybe in furtherance of that, you now have 2 letters of no objection from both of the property owners stating as much, that they do not have any objection and do not view this as being detrimental to their property. So I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the board members may have. We appreciate your consideration of our request this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that objects to this? Apparently not. All right, with that being said, I would open the floor for discussion from the board.
I just got one question. When you put this sign up, how do you clear cut the trees by the interstate? You have to put in for that for your sign to be visible?
Well, to the extent that there are trees in the right of way outside of our property line, we'd have to get authority from DOTD to remove or thin those trees.
Okay. They're pretty much thin now, and I would hope no one would develop in that sensitive area
I wouldn't
with
think so.
drainage as we got it.
There's no intention to cut any of the trees along the interstate fence, so to speak, but obviously I'll put in a permit to underbrush. You know,
Okay.
get that brush that grows up the trees, we'll probably get that down. The trees themselves, there's a couple dead in there that I'll ask to remove,
Sure.
but beyond that, I have no intention of cutting any trees.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding this billboard? If not, do I hear a motion? All right. Do I have a second on the motion to approve the variance as requested? Moved and seconded to approve. I will ask you to please vote.
Motion carries, all in favor?
This may be a historic meeting today. First of all, in length. Y'all have a nice 4th of July. All right. With that being said, do we have any old business that needs to be brought up? Yes, sir.
I know we need more members on this board. I know that everyone's coming up to nominate someone this coming council meeting. As an alternate, appreciate you being here as an alternate.
Yes, thank you very much.
Have this forum and have this stuff moving forward. There'll be 2 alternates or just 1?
Two, and
Do we have 1 or do we have 2?
If I'm not mistaken, 2 on that have been nominated.
correct.
Not
They'll be voting, the parish council meeting will be a week from this Thursday, which I think is the 11th, and they will be voting on that particular thing, and hopefully, I know that we've had several people apply, so they would be voting on that, and at that point, I would expect we would have a full Board of Adjustment committee and 2 alternates. And if you know of anybody, I think it's too late to submit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're nominated.
I think nominations are closed, so, all right. All right, so is there any new business besides having a nice 4th of July? All right. With that being said, I move to adjourn this particular meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Happy 4th.
Just remember this. He who goes forth with a fit.